Congratulations on receiving a Science, Mathematics, and Research for Transformation Scholarship. This web-based orientation will include an introduction to policies and procedures, discussion of program requirements during each of the 4 program phases, and provide helpful tips for a successful completion of the program. At the conclusion of this presentation will be a brief quiz to test your essential program knowledge. During the summer, each awardee will be required to complete an onboarding session phone call with the Scholar Coordinator. The Science, Mathematics, and Research for Transformation program was established under Title 10 U.S. Code 2192A by Congress for the Department of Defense as a scholarship for service program to support undergraduate and graduate students pursuing degrees in disciplines relevant to national security. The SMART Scholarship for Service program will be referred to in this presentation as SMART. SMART aims to increase the number of civilian scientists and engineers working at Department of Defense facilities. A team is involved in driving the success of the program and ensuring the needs of the Department of Defense are met. This section outlines the contact information for each member in SMART. A sponsoring facility is a particular laboratory or facility within the Department of Defense components. The departments of the Army, Navy, Air Force, and other Department of Defense agencies. Other Department of Defense agencies consist of individual agencies that do not belong to the departments of the Army, Navy, or Air Force. During the award process, sponsoring facilities review applications and select individuals for SMART awards that match facility personnel needs. Sponsoring facilities select applicants for an award based on the specific award length, field of study, degree level, and academic and professional goals stated on the application. When applicants accept the SMART award, they are making a commitment to the specific sponsoring facility that made the recommendation for selection. The sponsoring facility is the location at which SMART Scholarship Program scholars, referred to in this presentation as scholars, perform internships as applicable, begin full-time employment upon graduation, and complete the service commitment. The SMART sponsoring facility point of contact is provided at the time of award and on the award cover letter. The Scholar Coordinator is the first point of contact for all program-related questions. Currently, each Department of Defense component has a designated Scholar Coordinator within SMART. All scholar requests and questions are processed through the Scholar Coordinator. SMART provides scholars with their Scholar Coordinator's name and contact information. The main contact for SMART program questions or concerns is smartscholar@lmi.org. Currently, each Department of Defense component has a designated service liaison. The service liaison is the main point of contact between SMART and sponsoring facilities. Service liaisons may assist scholars in developing positive relationships with their sponsoring facility and, in certain circumstances, may assist in securing internships and facilitate hiring for completion of the service commitment. The service liaison is an excellent resource for questions and troubleshooting facility-specific questions regarding internships, mentoring, and graduation and hiring. Scholars are provided with their service liaison's name and contact information as needed. SMART Scholarship for Service Program scholars are individuals who received and accepted a SMART award. There are 2 types of scholars. A recruitment scholar is a scholar who is not employed in a permanent civilian position by the sponsoring facility at the time of award. Scholars who are employed by the sponsoring facility in a temporary or internship position at the time of award are recruitment scholars. A retention scholar is a scholar who is employed in a permanent civilian position by the sponsoring facility at the time of award. A retention scholar is not someone who is employed in a temporary or internship position at the time of award. This orientation presentation contains information that is applicable to all scholars as well as information that is applicable to only recruitment scholars of SMART. Information that is applicable only to specific types of scholars is noted as such. If a requirement does not specify that it is specific to a particular type of scholar, the requirement applies to all scholars. Communication with SMART. This section discusses specific communication expectations while participating in the SMART Scholarship Program. From this orientation forward, the Scholar Coordinator is the scholar's first point of contact for program-related questions and document submissions. The Scholar Coordinator receives and reviews scholar-required documents, answers scholar questions, and provides pertinent programmatic information to scholars. SMART uses all methods of communication. However, email is generally the primary form. Scholars must check email regularly for SMART communications. Be sure to designate SMART-related emails as non-spam material and ensure that SMART has current contact information. When communicating with SMART, keep correspondences brief and professional. Present the question or purpose of the email up front and provide supporting information as needed. This style of writing is the most commonly used method of communication within the Department of Defense. The SMART email address is a shared account. Subject line including the sponsoring service, scholar name, and issue guide the Scholar Coordinators in identifying and prioritizing requests by urgency. The Scholar Coordinator strives to respond to scholar emails within 1 business day. If an issue is time sensitive, call the Scholar Coordinator in addition to sending an urgent email. Here is an example of a brief and professional email to SMART. Subject line, Army, DOE, Spring Transcript. Hello SMART, thank you for the reminder. My spring transcript has been ordered and should arrive via mail shortly. Attached is a confirmation of the transcript request. Please let me know if it is not received. Thank you. Respectfully, J. Doe. Note the subject line of the email begins with the scholar's sponsoring service, followed by the scholar's last name, and then a simple subject identifier. The email is brief, provides only necessary details, and is professional in tone. This is a typical email sent to SMART. Throughout the year, SMART will request information and provide information regarding submission deadlines for program requirements. To ensure timely receipt of program information, check email regularly for SMART-related messages. Comply with requests in a timely manner and prior to the required deadline. Notify the Scholar Coordinator of any issues relating to late document submission. Be professional in all correspondence. Remember that emails are a permanent written record and can be viewed by everyone in the SMART Scholarship for Service program, including the program management and the sponsoring facility. Communication is an opportunity to build a professional and reliable reputation. When communicating with the Scholar Coordinator, service liaison, mentor, facility point of contact, or any other party regarding SMART, always exhibit the highest degree of professionalism. Respond to emails and requests for information promptly. Be courteous and responsive. If an issue arises that needs to be addressed with SMART, be proactive and reach out to the Scholar Coordinator before the issue becomes urgent. Are there topics a scholar should not email the SMART Scholarship Program about? Yes. Do not send emails containing personal or sensitive information such as security-related issues or personal health details. If an issue relating to the SMART award arises, contact the Scholar Coordinator to determine if any further action needs to occur. Personally identifiable information, or PII, refers to information that can be used to distinguish or trace an individual's identity, either alone or when combined with other personal or identifying information. Personally identifiable information includes Social Security number, driver's license number, financial account number, credit card information, and medical information. SMART only requests PII that is necessary. Do not send personally identifiable information via email. Only use physical mail or fax to send information securely. When sending a fax containing personally identifiable information, use a cover sheet. SMART awards provide an amount of financial assistance determined by the Secretary of Defense. Scholars only receive funding for the degree specified in the application to SMART as set forth in the service agreement. This section discusses the different types of funding and their disbursement. SMART funds the total cost of full-time tuition at approved U.S. academic institutions. SMART scholarships are tenable at any regionally accredited U.S. college or university. Full-time tuition includes fall through spring, standard terms only. There is no cap on tuition, and the amount of the scholar's tuition does not affect the length of the service commitment. Tuition is paid directly to the school. SMART funding does not include tuition paid for summer and/or condensed winter terms. Courses taken outside the standard academic year and without prior approval will not be funded by SMART. Under rare circumstances, requests for additional tuition and/or enrollment can be made. Enrollment and/or completion of coursework during summer and/or condensed winter terms, whether taken online or at a physical location, requires prior authorization from SMART, even when the academic institution does not assess tuition charges for the additional term or enrollment. Scholars receive a stipend based on an annual rate as determined by the Assistant Secretary of Defense for Research and Education. Stipend rates may vary by cohort year. Scholars who complete less than 12 months of Phase 1 activities receive the stipend on a prorated basis. All recruitment scholars begin to receive funding in August, provided all award funding prerequisites have been met. Recruitment scholars generally receive one stipend payment after degree completion. Recruitment scholars contact the Scholar Coordinator with questions regarding stipend payments and distribution. The 2018 cohort may request an increase in the stipend rate for additional qualifications earned in the form of a conferred STEM degree funded by SMART. Scholars awarded funding for a dual degree whose program does not confer the initial degree may establish additional academic qualifications by providing documentation from the academic institution verifying that all degree requirements are met for the first degree, such that if the scholar left the degree program as of that date, the scholar would be awarded the first degree. Contact the Scholar Coordinator for further information and instruction. The SMART program provides an annual miscellaneous supplies allowance. Scholars funded for a partial academic year receive the allowance on a prorated basis. Miscellaneous supplies might include but are not limited to books, technology purchases, and other school supplies. SMART also provides an annual health insurance allowance to recruitment scholars. The SMART program does not withhold taxes from funds paid to or on behalf of scholars. Recruitment scholars receive the 1099 form, miscellaneous, which records the amount paid to the scholar during the tax year. Stipend amounts and internship support payments, if applicable, are included on the 1099 miscellaneous. SMART does not withhold taxes from funds paid to or on behalf of recruitment scholars. It is the responsibility of the scholar to adhere to state and federal regulations regarding tax responsibilities. SMART cannot provide tax advice. It is recommended scholars talk to a tax professional. For questions about whether certain funds distributed to scholars are taxable, consult a licensed tax professional and the IRS at www.irs.gov. Because it is a Scholar for Service program, SMART is focused on preparing scholars for full-time civilian employment with the DoD sponsoring facility. As a result, SMART has additional and different requirements than many traditional scholarships. Each program requirement is intended to facilitate the scholar's timely and successful transition into the Department of Defense. Accordingly, scholars must satisfy all program requirements. SMART has program requirements that correspond to specific program phases. The phases are as follows. Phase 0 Award. Phase 0 begins at the time an awardee accepts a SMART award by signing the SMART Service Agreement and ends 31 July of the award year. Phase 0 awardees do not receive award funding, nor does any time spent attending a site visit, completing orientation, or completing an onboarding session count toward completion of the service commitment. Prior to funding an award, Phase 0 awardees must comply with acceptance details, complete orientation, and provide all funding prerequisites documentation. At the end of this presentation will be instructions on completing Phase 0 requirements, such as the recruitment site visit and the awardee onboarding session. Phase 1 Degree Pursuit. Phase 1 begins on 1 August of the award year in accordance with the SMART Service Agreement and ends upon verified completion of all Phase 1 requirements. During Phase 1, scholars must be in a full-time status pursuing the degree set forth by the SMART Service Agreement. Scholar requirements including academic requirements, reporting requirements, and internships if applicable. Phase 2 Service Commitment. Phase 2 begins the service commitment as defined by the work start date. The work start date is defined as the first day of full-time employment with the sponsoring facility after verified degree completion. Once Phase 1 is verified as completed, SMART provides written confirmation of official entry into Phase 2, including service commitment start and end dates. During Phase 2, scholars complete the service commitment by working full-time for their sponsoring facility. Phase 3, Post-Service Commitment. Phase 3 is a monitoring period that begins upon completion of the service commitment. During Phase 3, SMART tracks scholar employment status to obtain information on scholar retention rates within the Department of Defense. The Scholar Coordinator is responsible for monitoring each scholar's academic progress and ensuring compliance with specific academic requirements, including maintaining a minimum GPA, maintaining full-time status, remaining in good academic standing status with the academic institution, and making adequate progress toward degree completion as set forth on the SMART Service Agreement. This section provides specifics on each requirement. All scholars must maintain a minimum cumulative GPA of 3.0 on a 4.0 scale from the academic institution for which SMART funding is received. The GPA must be verified by the institution, either by being printed on the transcript, printed on an unofficial transcript, or by providing a letter from the academic advisor confirming the GPA. After SMART funding begins, only the grades for the degree funded by SMART are used to calculate the GPA. Grades for a previous degree earned at the same academic institution for which SMART funding is received are not included in calculating whether a scholar is meeting SMART GPA requirements. All coursework must be taken for a grade, unless the institution requires a scholar complete a course for which pass-fail is the only method of grading. If coursework is taken for pass-fail, when a grade could be offered, a scholar may be placed in an audible status of non-compliance and or dismissed from the program. Scholars are required to complete all coursework on time and in accordance with the educational work plan as reflecting on the Phase 1 annual report. Incomplete coursework does not constitute adequate progress toward degree completion as reflected in the educational work plan. Incomplete coursework also includes failure to earn a passing grade for any coursework taken in a single term, even if the cumulative GPA remains above 3.0 on a 4.0 scale. Incomplete grades may cause the scholar to be placed in an audible status of non-compliance and or dismissed from the program. If a scholar earns an incomplete or fails to earn credits for coursework, which result in less than full-time credits earned for the academic term, the scholar may be placed on academic probation and or dismissed from the program. If a scholar fails to maintain the required GPA, fails to complete coursework, or receives incomplete grades, they may be placed in an audible status of non-compliance and or dismissed from the program. SMART requires scholars to maintain full-time status at all times. However, coursework above full-time status may be required to complete the degree on time. During Phase 1, all scholars maintain full-time enrollment status for each academic term with their approved academic institution. However, the school defines full-time status. Remember that it is the minimum requirement for the SMART program. Scholars are encouraged to take as many credit hours as necessary to complete their degree as set forth in the SMART service agreement. Even if the final term, with potentially less than a full-time course load remaining, scholars are still required to maintain full-time status. Scholars should take electives that can enhance sponsoring facilities' required skills. Contact the sponsoring facility to find out if there is coursework that would assist in facility work. Typically, good standing means scholars are meeting the GPA requirements for the school, are making acceptable progress towards the degree, and have not been placed on any non-compliance or probationary status. Actions that could cause scholars to fall out of good standing with the school may include personal behavior such as underage drinking, damage to school property, fighting, plagiarism, or cheating on exams. Notify the scholar coordinator if any issues arise in complying with this requirement. If you are not in good standing, you may be placed in an audible status of non-compliance and or dismissed from the program. Scholars are required to complete the degree funded by SMART as set forth in the SMART service agreement. In certain circumstances, a scholar may request an amendment to the service agreement. If the request is approved, the service agreement will be amended. If the request is denied and the scholar fails to complete the degree in compliance with the service agreement, the scholar may be placed in an audible status of non-compliance and or dismissed from the program depending on the nature of the default. It is a program requirement to have the funded degree completed and conferred on time. What is the difference between degree completion and degree conferral? Degree completion means that all degree requirements during Phase 1, including coursework, thesis, dissertation writing, defense, and edits, are met. There is no further work remaining on the degree. Degree conferral is the date that the school bestows the degree. Everything has been reviewed and approved, and the degree is posted on the official transcript. The timing for conferral varies from school to school. For some, conferral occurs upon degree completion. For others, conferral occurs once or twice a year. Find out when conferral for the degree is, and be sure SMART is aware and the sponsoring facility is aware. Scholars submit at their own expense documentation and information requested by the SMART program. Updated scholar reporting information is available on the SMART Scholar portal. Failure to provide documentation in a timely manner may cause a scholar to be placed in a status of audible non-compliance or dismissed from the program. This section provides information regarding specific reporting requirements during Phase 1. Scholars submit official transcripts from the academic institution within 30 days after the end of each academic term in which academic coursework was completed or when enrollment is reflected. This applies to summer and winter approved additional terms. PhD scholars conducting research, scholars on an approved leave of absence for the 5-year funding cap, and scholars on a study abroad. All transcripts received by SMART must be official. An official transcript is a certified statement of academic record. Official transcripts are printed on security-sensitive paper and contain the seal of the academic institution and the signature of the registrar. If the academic institution offers the ability to electronically deliver official transcripts, the institution needs to deliver the transcript directly to SMART Scholar at lmi.org. The program cannot accept transcripts forwarded by scholars. When ordering transcripts, ensure that all grades have posted. If grades have not yet posted by the 30-day deadline, contact the Scholar Coordinator. Most schools include a calculated GPA on transcripts. However, some do not. Check with the academic institution prior to ordering transcripts to ensure the cumulative GPAs are reflected. The final transcript must have the conferral date printed. The annual report is a document that provides SMART with information regarding scholar progress during a funding year. The annual report tracks and projects completion of degree requirements, projects number of internships, projects work start dates, discloses outside funding information, discloses employment information, discloses health insurance information, discloses study abroad activities, and reports scholar achievements and activities. The information requested on the annual report is not personally identifiable information. The report can be emailed directly to the Scholar Coordinator when complete. All scholars complete and submit an annual report no later than 1 June each year during Phase 1. The final Phase 1 annual report is due upon degree completion. The Phase 1 annual report template is available on the SMART Scholar portal. There are similar annual reports for Phase 2 and 3. Several SMART program requirements occur at or in coordination with the sponsoring facility. This section expands on the specific reporting requirements that involve the sponsoring facility. Awardees are notified of the name and location of their assigned sponsoring facility at the time of award. All recruitment attendees are required to complete the mandatory site visit at their sponsoring facility prior to the start of the award. Site visits are generally completed by 15 July and consists of 1 to 2 business days with the sponsoring facility. Recruitment awardees contact their sponsoring facility point of contact to receive site visit dates. The recruitment site visit requests must be submitted with the award documents. Recruitment awardees whose summer address is 50 miles or more from the sponsoring facility location are eligible for the site visit allowance. Site visits offer sponsoring facilities an opportunity to orient the awardee with the sponsoring facility and prepare the awardee for future internships and employment. The site visit is an opportunity for awardees to ensure personal suitability with the sponsoring facility prior to the start of the award. Recruitment awardees submit a site visit report detailing the awardee's site visit experience within 5 days of the conclusion of the site visit. The recruitment site visit report allows the awardee to withdraw acceptance of the SMART award if the awardee decides they are not a good fit with the SMART award. If an attendee withdraws prior to 1 August, the attendee will not be subject to debt repayment procedures and will not be required to refund any funds expended on their behalf. All scholars must be able to obtain and maintain the security clearance level required by the sponsoring facility. Paperwork submitted by recruitment scholars with the award document will be used to initiate the clearance process. Retention scholars are expected to maintain the level required by the sponsoring facility. The Department of Defense follows all federal laws and regulations when performing background investigations for security clearances. If you have any questions regarding clearances, please reach out to your scholar coordinator immediately. Each sponsoring facility may have different levels of security clearance required. Scholars will be contacted by either the SMART Scholarship Program or the sponsoring facility to continue the security clearance process. Communication in a timely manner is especially important when submitting documents to continue the clearance investigation. Scholars who are ineligible to obtain or maintain that level of clearance will be dismissed from the program. Recruitment scholars may need to obtain a Common Access Card, also known as a CAC, prior to attending an internship or being hired. A Common Access Card generally allows scholars entry to the sponsoring facility and access to the sponsoring facility's computer system. It is important to have obtained a sponsoring facility issued Common Access Card prior to attending the internship and during the hiring process. SMART policy states all multi-year recruitment scholars complete internships with the sponsoring facility, usually in the summer months. This requirement is rarely waived. During internships, recruitment scholars work full-time at the sponsoring facility and are expected to be focused on successfully completing the internships. Internships provide an opportunity to make a meaningful contribution to the mission of the sponsoring facility, establish a positive working relationship with future coworkers and supervisors, and become familiar with the local area. Multi-year recruitment scholars complete the first internship the summer after the award is funded. Internships are between 8 and 12 weeks unless the sponsoring facility requests a different length. Scholars are expected to maintain high ethical standards while attending the internship. Misconduct while attending an internship may result in dismissal. Upon completion of the internship, scholars are given the opportunity to report on their experience. The recruitment internship report is due within 14 days of completion of an internship. Remember that time spent working at the sponsoring facility during an internship does not count as time served towards completion of the service commitment. An internship support payment is additional funding that may be provided to eligible recruitment scholars completing internships. Internship support payments assist scholars with the cost of traveling to and staying at the internship location. Internship support payments are intended to support the cost of travel, lodging, meals, transportation, and incidental expenses. They are not in exchange for work performed. Internship support payments are in addition to regular monthly stipend payments. Scholars may be eligible for internship support payments if they are a multi-year recruitment scholar completing an internship and the academic address is 50 miles based on federal travel regulations or more from the sponsoring facility internship location. No additional funding is provided for scholars who attend internships longer than 12 weeks. A decrease in the duration of the internship results in a corresponding reduction in internship support payments. Several overarching program requirements include sponsoring facility sponsorship, geographic mobility, compliance, and the code of conduct. This section explains each remaining requirement. Scholars are notified of the name and location of their assigned sponsoring facility at the time of award. During the award process, sponsoring facilities select individuals for a SMART award with the expectation that the awardee will join the facility's workforce after completion of Phase 1. Prior to accepting the SMART award, awardees are responsible for understanding the sponsoring facility, its mission, activities, location, and additional service obligation requirements to ensure that the facility and local area are an appropriate fit. Continued sponsorship during Phase 1 and 2 by the selecting sponsoring facility is a requirement to maintain participation in and funding under SMART. Any scholar communication or action with the assigned sponsoring facility that result in loss of sponsorship from the assigned sponsoring facility may result in dismissal from the program. Scholars may not change sponsoring facility, seek out alternative sponsorship, or negotiate transfers of sponsorship. Such scholar actions may result in dismissal from SMART. In extremely rare circumstances, a scholar may lose sponsorship through no fault of their own. If SMART determines that the match between the sponsoring facility and scholar is not viable, the SMART program will work with the service liaison and sponsoring facility to attempt to find alternative placement for the scholar. Sponsoring facilities that participate in the SMART program are located throughout the country. Scholars are required to be geographically mobile and relocate to the sponsoring facility for completion of internships and the service commitment. Additionally, although scholars almost always complete internships and the service commitment with the original sponsoring facility, scholars must be willing to relocate to and complete the internships and the service commitment with a new sponsoring facility located anywhere within the United States if reassigned by the SMART program. The SMART Service Agreement is a signed written agreement whereby the DoD funds the academic pursuits of a scholar in exchange for a period of obligated civilian service to the Department of Defense. The SMART Service Agreement is signed by the scholar and the awarding DoD component. The SMART Service Agreement outlines the scholar awarded degree type, degree level, academic institution, award length, Department of Defense component, and sponsoring facility. Scholars comply with all SMART program policies and procedures, including the requirements set forth in the 2018 Scholar Handbook and its updates, amendments, and inclusions. Compliance with all program policies and procedures as set forth in the SMART Service Agreement is required for continued participation in and funding under the SMART program. The Scholar Handbook provides further information on program requirements, academic requirements, sponsoring facility requirements, and more. For clarification on a policy or procedure, contact the Scholar Coordinator. The SMART Code of Conduct is a set of guidelines that establish standards for how scholars conduct themselves. The purpose of the Code of Conduct is to strengthen the SMART program by protecting the reputation of excellence among its scholars. The Code of Conduct is also created to secure the significant public investment made in each SMART award granted. The Code of Conduct includes academic excellence. Scholars strive to meet SMART academic requirements, attend all classes and laboratories, are respectful to instructors, and complete coursework to the best of their ability. Professionalism. Scholars are courteous, honest, and responsible in their communications and interactions. Scholars are timely in attendance and completion of duties. Scholars strive to achieve a level of excellence that exceeds minimum requirements. Leadership. Scholars take the initiative to advance their knowledge and share their experience with others. Integrity. Scholars adhere to the highest ethical standards and comply with applicable laws, rules, and regulations. Public service. Scholars are mindful of the public investment made in their SMART award and act in a manner that is worthy of that investment. Scholars are dedicated to and uphold the principles and national interests of the United States. Graduation and hiring is a transitionary period for all SMART scholars. Recruitment scholars will be dealing with academic deadlines, packing and moving, and the transition from full-time student to full-time employee. During the transition from Phase 1 to Phase 2, there are several SMART reporting requirements. This section provides information and documentation necessary to successfully enter into Phase 2, the service commitment phase. Because SMART is a Scholar for Service program and is designed to place scholars directly in specific postgraduate positions with their sponsoring facility, the program has been granted a hiring authority. In order for the sponsoring facility to use the program's hiring authority, SMART must verify that their scholar has completed all Phase 1 requirements. The hiring memo is the mechanism for providing the sponsoring facility with that verification. Sponsoring facilities are likely to ask their scholar to submit additional documentation or complete an application process. Discuss the avenues for hiring in advance to ensure compliance is met. Scholars work directly with the sponsoring facility to discuss Phase 2 salary and benefits. SMART does not participate in discussions or negotiations about the Phase 2 salary or benefits. Scholar salary and benefits are dependent upon academic qualifications, work experience, the postgraduate position, and locality. SMART does not cover relocation expenses. Most sponsoring facilities are not able to provide relocation costs, and scholars should anticipate paying for travel and relocation to the sponsoring facility. Several reporting requirements are to be met in the months just prior to degree completion. Email the Scholar Coordinator 6 months prior to graduation with the anticipated degree completion and degree conferral dates. This information should be available either on the school's website or by contacting the school's registrar's office. During this time, contact the sponsoring facility to inquire about the hiring process and determine what their specific hiring requirements may be. Scholars must maintain communication with the sponsoring facility in all communication forms utilized to complete facility inquiries and requirements. The service liaisons will already be in contact with their respective facilities regarding participant hiring. However, it is critical that contact be maintained by the scholar in the final months of Phase 1. SMART requires scholars submit a final transcript with degree conferral reflected. Due to the urgency in the hiring process, a letter from the academic institution indicating degree completion may be utilized in lieu of a conferral transcript. In addition to the transcript, SMART requires the tentative offer letter, if available, and the final offer letter be submitted for tracking and monitoring purposes. After successful completion of Phase 1, scholars begin work at their sponsoring facility. This is the initiation of Phase 2, where scholars fulfill their service obligations. This section includes the specifics of Phase 2. Phase 2 begins with service commitment as defined by the work start date. The work start date is defined as the first day of full-time employment with the sponsoring facility after verified degree completion. Once Phase 1 is verified completed, SMART provides written confirmation of official entry into Phase 2 via the Phase 2 letter. The Phase 2 letter serves as written confirmation that the scholar has completed all Phase 1 requirements. The Phase 2 letter also includes the degree completion and conferral dates, the name and location of sponsoring facility where scholar will be completing the service commitment, basic award information, and service commitment start and end dates. During Phase 2, scholars complete the service commitment by working full-time for their sponsoring facility. Scholars perform post-graduation employment with the sponsoring facility at the rate of 1 calendar year of service for each full academic year, generally 9 months of award. Financial support for an academic term, quarter, semester, that is less than a full academic year requires an additional 6 months of post-graduation employment. The SMART service commitment is in addition to any other period for which the scholar is obligated to serve in the civil service of the United States. If any additional service commitments are required by the service, it will be discussed with awardees prior to the start of Phase 1. Scholars fulfill the service commitment and satisfactorily perform employee duties and responsibilities as a full-time Department of Defense civilian employee. Periods of leave without pay or other periods during which the employee is not in a pay status do not count toward completion of the required service commitment. Scholars complete the service commitment with the sponsoring facility as set forth in the SMART Service Agreement. The scholar may not choose to complete the service commitment with another sponsoring facility. If a scholar fails to properly complete the service commitment, the scholar will be dismissed from SMART and may be required to repay the entire award amount. Scholars submit a Phase 2 annual report on or before 1 June each year during Phase 2. The Phase 2 annual report tracks updated contact information, reports scholar achievements and activities, and indicates if potential problems need a follow-up with the SMART program. The Phase 2 annual report is essential to the continual monitoring, growth, and success of SMART. This is an opportunity for scholars to share accomplishments, promotions, publications, and other achievements with the SMART program. The Phase 3 transition occurs on the date that is printed on the Phase 2 letter. At that time, the service commitment will be complete. However, there are a few program requirements remaining. This section includes the specifics of Phase 3. Upon completion of all Phase 2 requirements, SMART will issue a Phase 3 letter to the scholar and the sponsoring facility. The Phase 3 letter serves as written confirmation that the scholar has fully completed Phase 2 and outlines Phase 3 requirements. During Phase 3, SMART tracks scholar employment status to obtain information on scholar retention rates within the DoD. SMART will continue to monitor each scholar's status within the Department of Defense. Scholars should update the SMART program with personal and professional contact information in the SMART Scholar Portal. During Phase 3, scholars respond to requests for updates by SMART. Scholars submit a Phase 3 annual report to SMART on or before 1 June each year during Phase 3. The Phase 3 annual report tracks updated contact information, current employment information, potential additional education, and reports scholar achievements and activities. Ensuring that contact is maintained is crucial to the improvement and longevity of the SMART program. Scholar feedback is valuable. A scholar may be dismissed from the SMART program for failure to comply with any of the program policies or procedures. A dismissal notice will be provided to the scholar, specifying the date of and reason for the dismissal. All scholar funding will cease immediately upon the date of dismissal. A scholar dismissed from the program may be required to refund the entire award amount. A scholar who withdraws from the SMART program prior to completion of Phase 2 service commitment may be required to refund the entire award amount. If a scholar is found non-compliant with regards to any SMART policy, SMART will provide the scholar with a non-compliance notice or a dismissal notice, depending on the nature of the default. All non-compliance notice specifies the scholar is in an audible status of non-compliance and provides next steps. If the scholar does not return to compliance, SMART may provide the scholar with a dismissal notice. Please refer to Appendix A of the 2018 Scholar Handbook for the non-compliance matrix. Extenuating circumstances may necessitate changes to the SMART service agreement. In these rare cases, the scholar is required to submit a completed SMART service agreement amendment request. If the request is approved, the SMART service agreement will be amended. If the request is denied, the scholar fails to complete the degree in compliance with the current SMART service agreement. The scholar may be placed in an audible status of non-compliance and or dismissed from the program depending on the nature of the default. Be proactive and notify SMART immediately of any issues that may affect compliance with the SMART service agreement. A scholar may be dismissed from the SMART Scholarship for Service program for failure to comply with any program policy or procedure. A dismissal notice will be provided to the scholar specifying the date of and reason for the dismissal. All SMART funding will cease immediately upon the date of dismissal. A scholar dismissed from the program may be required to repay the entire award amount. If a scholar is dismissed from the program for failure to comply with any SMART policy or procedure, or withdraws from the program prior to completing the service commitment, the scholar will be subject to debt repayment procedures. A scholar subject to debt repayment procedures may be required to promptly refund all amounts expended under the SMART award, including all stipend, tuition, approved related educational expenses, travel expenses, health insurance funds, miscellaneous supplies allowance, and all other funds expended by the federal government under the scholar's award. The exact amount will be determined by the applicable DoD component. The obligation to make a refund and to reimburse the United States is for all purposes a debt owed to the United States. A discharge in bankruptcy that is entered less than 5 years after termination of a SMART service agreement does not discharge the person signing such agreement from a debt arising under such agreement. The repayment of any refund shall be accomplished in accordance with the procedures established pursuant to provisions of Volume 5, Chapter 28 of Department of Defense Financial Management Regulation. Applicable policies and procedures established by the Defense Finance and Accounting Service, and any additional applicable debt repayment policies and procedures. Scholars should contact the Scholar Coordinator and Service Liaison to discuss the situation before taking any steps to withdraw from the SMART program. Scholars who decide to withdraw from the program complete the SMART Service Agreement amendment requests. Once a scholar withdraws from SMART, funding will immediately cease and debt repayment proceedings will begin. Phase 0 begins at the time an awardee accepts a SMART award by signing the SMART Service Agreement that ends 31 July of the award year. During Phase 0, awardees complete this orientation presentation and corresponding quiz. Recruitment awardees complete the recruitment site visit, and all awardees complete an onboarding session phone call with the Scholar Coordinator. Upon completion of this orientation for the 2018 cohort, all scholars must complete the program requirements web-based orientation quiz. Instructions for how to complete and submit the quiz will be emailed to you. The program requirements quiz is required to be completed with 100% accuracy and must be completed prior to the recruitment site visit, if applicable, and the onboarding session. Within a few weeks of this presentation, each scholar will be required to complete a 45-minute one-on-one onboarding session phone call with the Scholar Coordinator, no later than 1 August. Please review the 2018 Scholar Handbook and note any questions regarding policy, procedure, and requirements. The onboarding session is an excellent opportunity to discuss expectations and questions with SMART. This concludes the orientation presentation for the 2018 cohort. Again, congratulations and welcome to SMART. If after viewing this presentation you have any immediate questions, email the SMART program at smartscholar@lmi.org. Please proceed to the orientation quiz now.